This is stage 3 of the DTM model, and as you can see, the birth rate is finally stabilizing with the death rate. However, the population is still growing at a very fast rate. Some general characteristics of stage 3 include when family planning is finally introduced, there is a better water and food supply, there is improved medical care and accommodations or housing. There is also an increase in women's rights, their status, and their education. There's urbanization, and it improved economic conditions. There is still high inequality and separate areas of people who are living in poverty. A country example who's in stage 3 is Botswana. This is the population pyramid of Botswana, and their population pyramid is described as late expanding. So as you can see, about age 20 to 35 is the biggest age group, and these are the people who are economically active, or they're called the working class. Birth rate has stabilized with death rate, so there is a great expansion in the youthful population. Because there is a lower birth rate, so there are less infants as a result of better education, better health care, and better status of women. There is also a longer life expectancy as a result of better health care. Here are a few demographic indicators with statistics relating to the country Botswana. This picture shows that even though stage 3 countries are moving towards urbanization, there are still big areas where people are living in poverty. This picture shows healthcare in Botswana. It shows more technology than you would find in a stage 1 or 2 country health clinic because Botswana is developing, and as a stage 3 country, they have increased technology and better healthcare. The main concern of a stage 3 country is stability. On the political sense is definitely government corruption. The social sense, disease and disparities. And for their economy is just developing stability. And one way to do that is diversification. So some government corruption solutions include accountability, which basically means putting regulations in place that are going to force government officials to act openly so that you can easily spot corruption. To solve government corruption, we also need to make sure that we're paying our civil servants well, because those with independent jobs that work for the government need a high salary, because if not, they're very susceptible to bribery, which is a form of corruption. Openness and transparency in government spending means finding a transparent and opening way to process funds that governments manage, like taxes, the funds from capital markets, and foreign aid, to ensure that they're used for public interests and not personal gains within the government. Another solution is to form an anti-corruption agency, which is independent from the government, and they're allowed to investigate allegations. So basically, they have the power to hold the most powerful people in society accountable for their actions. An example of one of these agencies is the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, and in 2011 they established the EACC, which is the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. This has been working on clearing corruption in Kenya, and some of their work so far has been focused on police officers, public procurement, ethical breaches, and recovering illegally spent assets. The final solution to government corruption is introducing smart technology, because frequent and direct contact between government officials and citizens is shown to increase the opportunity for illegal transactions, a direct contributor to corruption. In the business community, employing a smart technology like this has been effective in tax collection, public procurement, and red tape. Chile has seen positive results through using their technology Chile Compra, which is a very transparent public electronic system for purchasing and hiring use. Now, the service is used in companies and individual citizens for their own purchasing and hiring use, and as an internet platform for the whole country. The next main problem to instability in a country is healthcare. The first main solution to this problem is making healthcare affordable so that rural communities are able to afford and receive adequate healthcare. For example, India has worked towards making healthcare free for those living below the poverty line. Increasing transport opportunities helps with the access to proper healthcare, and India once again has established the NRHM, which has the goal to provide accessible healthcare to those living in rural areas, equipped with proper medical equipment and ambulances. Um, Reproductive health is also very important in the improvement of healthcare because many sexually transmitted diseases are responsible for lower life expectancy. One example of a reproductive healthcare reform is Kenya's establishment of ARHD, which provide adolescents with access to family planning and contraceptives, or a very safe environment and clean environment for childbirth. Improving living conditions also helps with healthcare because viral and infectious diseases um, are spread quickly through great masses of people. So if the large numbers of people who are living in poverty are not grouped so close together, then the outbreaks of dangerous diseases are highly unlikely. The main solution to economic instability is diversification because many economies in stage 3 have a lack of diversity and their markets are focused on one product. So when the market for that product falls, so does most of their economy. So a solution for diversification is making new company laws or action plans. So it's basically easing of ownership for international companies in certain industries. Also expanding industries, so not only focusing on one product. For example, Botswana, instead of just focusing on diamond production, also expanding into tourism or utility production. So one example is Saudi Arabia, who is actually cutting government subsidies on oil companies in efforts to diversify the economy because of a result of falling oil prices. They're also attempting to develop their mining and tourism agencies along with many more private sector jobs. Finally, some solutions for disparity and inequality include expanding the trade in a country because trade links the working markets of developed countries with the working markets of underdeveloped or developing countries. So expansion of trade raises living conditions and standards in developed countries, but it also pushes developing countries faster towards development because they're working to keep up with those they're trading with. Trading blocks is an arrangement that countries make that allows free trade between member countries, but it imposes taxes on other trading companies. So one example would be the EU. Member countries have access to each other's trading markets, and that creates equal salaries and income throughout those countries. Fair and ethical trade is basically making sure the people at the bottom of the trading process receive a fair salary for their work, so it's reducing disparities among the people who are working throughout trade. And then remittances is when foreign workers transfer money and goods to their home countries, and this reduces disparities in countries because the people who need the money most receive it without tax and without it passing through the government. If we look at how Kenya and Chile have been working to get government corruption better, the AICC in Kenya has been slowly working to uncover the many layers of their corrupt government and actually turn their country around. So the first few years that the AICC was established, Kenya's corruption index actually increased and it was getting a lot better. But over the past 2 years, the index has begun to decline again, and that puts to question the sustainability of their AICC. And Chile was working with their technological advances with Chile Compra to lower their corruption index. And the establishment of this online purchasing and hiring software, it has increased transparency within the business sectors of the government, and it has improved the trust slightly between the citizens and the government, as well as slightly increasing the corruption index. The attempt to diversify the economy in Saudi Arabia has been working when they cut subsidies on oil, and they also put an increase in prices on water, electricity, and gasoline to reduce the usage of oil. This is said to increase the non-oil revenue by $100 billion by 2020, and so far their economic deficit is improving. However, their private income sectors are not improving their GDP except for the utility sector. So they still have a way to go with their tourism and agriculture businesses in order to improve the GDP and increase the reliance on other private sectors than the mining business.